All right, let's talk Vikings draft here. So the Vikings obviously had a potential, franchise-altering draft here. I mean, there is a potential that we look back at this 10 years from now and are saying, wow, they got two Hall of Famers in the first round. That's just legitimately what is, the thing you're hoping if you're a Vikings fan. Now, again, how high likelihood is that of those first two picks being, those guys? Well, we could talk about it. First, let's say J.J. McCarthy, which I'm sure some people will say, you think he has potential to be a Hall of Famer? Okay, well, yeah, I don't know, I'm not projecting that or anything like that, but I think that there is some real upside with McCarthy. He is someone who I think there is a lot of, it's weird where, I think I said it on the podcast where I talked about how it's crazy that he is such a controversial prospect because he's kind of the most like milquetoast prospect there is. Like, kind of just does a good job at, I feel like he's relatively athletic. Like, does a pretty good job putting the ball, in the right spot. There are some accuracy issues, nothing major, but he'll miss some by like a foot type plays. I made a whole film study talking about JJ McCarthy. You can check that out. Also, I should set up just what the chart next to me is. What you're looking at is the number all the way to the left is when the player was selected. Next number over is when they were projected to go, according to the consensus big board. Then you have the player name and the position that they play. So again, for McCarthy, honestly, I really like this pick by the Vikings. I know some people love McCarthy, some people hate McCarthy, whatever, but at the end of the day, they didn't have to trade up a ton. They only traded up one spot. I think they were nervous. Some people were saying maybe they wanted Penix. I don't think that's the case. I think they wanted McCarthy. It feels like there's been enough smoke for a while thinking that they wanted McCarthy. I think they wanted McCarthy, but once Penix went at 8, I think they were like, oh my God, there's other teams that could use a quarterback. I think that the Raiders, Broncos, and Vikings all kind of wanted quarterbacks. And then once one of them left, I think the Vikings were like, well, what if the Raiders jump us? Let's just trade up. We'll get rid of a little bit of extra draft capital, but that's fine. We want to make sure we get a player, to get the player that we want here. Don't end up without a quarterback and have to go Sam Darnold for a year. They did not do that. What will McCarthy do? I don't know, but it's in a pretty decent position to succeed. Gets Justin Jefferson. That helps. So should be interesting at the very least. And then Dall Turner, who, you see on the consensus big board was at 9. Every mock draft I saw had him going 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. All of them. So, of course, the Falcons take a quarterback, which is its whole other thing. But, that's what I saw consistently. And for the, for the Vikings, they could use an edge rusher. They lost Danielle Hunter in free agency, and they feel like he could. I really do think he has incredible potential. I was a little bit lower on him than some others. I just didn't love him as a top 10 pick. I do like him at 17. That feels a lot better for me, and I think that there is a reason why Atlanta didn't go edge rushers. Probably, I don't know. Atlanta's a weird one, but in general, I do think there is a bit of a reason why he fell because the run defense isn't ideal, that does matter. But you could coach it up as well. It's not something that he's not set in stone. And one thing you have to remember as well is his tape was often going up against a lot better offensive linemen than other people's were, and that's part of why maybe I, looking back on it, I'm kind of wondering if I undervalued him a little bit because of that, because he was going up against higher competition than some other guys were. He's really good. He's going to be a really good player for them. Kyrie Jackson is also an interesting selection. So, the cornerback who, the concern with Jackson is, does he get beat on the outside too frequently? He has really good ball skills, a lot to really like about him. He was another guy that some people thought maybe could be like a day 2 guy, or a round 2 guy. Does go day 2, but, pick at 108, I think is low. I think he should have been picked higher, as in like earlier. I'm surprised he fell this far. This is another really strong pick. So they didn't pick for a while, partially due to some of these trade-ups, but once they got picking again, I thought they made some nice moves. A guy like Walter Ruse, the offensive lineman, is a project, but again, at 177, I'm not mad at this pick at all. Projects, sometimes people will draft these, large projects at like pick 10 or pick 1, like the Jaguars did with Trayvon Walker. Never really a fan of that. I always like if you're going to get a project, get them later. Again, there is some risk factor because, the analytics aren't terrible, but they're not usually what you want out of a guy that you're drafting. But there is enough, size and strength, and when you see him get the hand placement he wants and everything, he does look really good. For whatever reason, I evaluated him. I'm not sure why, because he was 162 on the consensus big board. Usually, I just get the top 100 guys, but that's I would say a strong pick. Then they went out and got a kicker, which is interesting. So there's some debate as to whether or not this is a smart decision going after just a kicker in general. I'm someone who is more, I would say, when it comes to people that are analytics-minded people, I am more willing to go out and say, okay, you can go make a call like this and get a kicker, because kickers are really important. I think that where people go wrong when they evaluate kickers, and when even smart people go wrong when they evaluate kickers, is that I think they often compare like Justin Tucker compared to like the league average kicker. But I think they should go the other way. And part of Justin Tucker's value with the Ravens is that he just has given them so many years of not having bad kicker play. Because while we can argue what's the difference between a good kicker and an okay kicker, the difference between an okay kicker and a bad kicker is massive. So, shoring up that position is important. Now, drafting a kicker doesn't always do that. Doesn't always give you what you want, and it's the Vikings. They're always going to, there's never going to be a kick until the Vikings win a Super Bowl with a game-winning field goal. There's never going to be a point when a kicker is lining up for a field goal in a clutch spot that Vikings fans aren't nervous just after, the heartbreak they've had. So there is that, but still, as a whole, I don't know anything about him, to be honest. I didn't do a kicker evaluation. If you really like him, sure, pick 203, fine. I don't have I think the one special teams position I'm willing to spend a draft pick on is kicker. Even that I'm a little bit weary of, but it's 203, whatever. Then they got a couple of like massive reaches, but like also we're in the 230s at this point, so who cares, I guess. Michael Juergens and Levi Drake Rodriguez, two guys that I was trying to look up stuff about. Couldn't find a lot, to be honest. Not a lot of information about these guys, unfortunately. So, again, very late in the draft, guys who weren't even within 100 picks of the, being Mr. Irrelevant, according to the consensus big board. But again, I'm sure the Vikings did their research and found interesting stuff about them. So, yeah, as a whole, could this be a franchise-altering draft? Absolutely, it could. Of course it could. This could be one of the best drafts in Vikings history if they can hit on those players. Now, we don't know if they're going to hit on those players. And like JJ McCarthy is a quarterback I like, but let's be honest, he was most people's quarterback 4. He was my quarterback 4, although mine was a little bit shifted around compared to the average person. But still, there still is a lot to like with him. And there's the other factor, too, of, hey, getting a key player in a quarterback and edge, what do the elite guys make at those two positions? Quarterback makes $50 million, edge rusher makes $30 million. If you can get those guys to play at that level, which would be insane, you're saving essentially, $70 million, because they're still making some money with their rookie deal, but you're going to be saving like over $70 million in value that way. If JJ McCarthy is the value of a $33 million quarterback and Dall Turner is the value of a $20 million edge rusher, you're still saving $50 million or close to $50 million in that scenario. So drafting key positions like that can really come in handy, even if they don't end up being elite. Just being good could still be enough to get the Vikings to be in much better position than they were in when they had Cousins. So really interesting stuff. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Vikings draft. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.